In regards to Chief of Police, Bhaal Kethus's suite and clues found, a stack of police reports submitted to Bhaal clearly indicate a pattern of cops adding on to servants' debts frivolous charges at irrational costs, such as if their working equipment ends up breaking from normal wear and tear, or they drop a water glass, etc. The logs demonstrate that claims of free room and board, and this place being a good-intentioned, progressive alternative to jail and prison, is just another for-profit scam, and the anti-bullying campaign seems to be a cover-up of these efforts, just as Jarvis, Realdilga, and Cormac predicted, and further indicated by servants with noted lower productivity levels on the log, of which after 90 days, they don't seem to have the same level of artificial fees being added to their debt. In fact, those servant names more regularly accrue bonus debt relief. With the party having witnessed Norris's caravan returning far too soon, this seems to add credence to the theory that less productive people are discharged, but into slavery instead of freedom, maybe even worse. The Journal of Bhaal Kethus was discovered by the party. It contained only one entry, but it was enough to help illuminate the relations between leadership here. According to the entry, of which was dated Timber the 16th, just 2 days before the party arrived to Zambieu, Bhaal also has the desert's delirium. But unlike Matthias Lusberg, he's terrified of it. Bhaal goes on to espouse how hard his life has been with reality beaten into him. He states feeling as if he had no choice but to become the bad guy to get by and survive. He long let go of feeling any remorse, confliction, or contemplation of the less-than-savory decisions throughout his life. However, they have started to come back and haunt him as of late, but by his own intention. Bhaal states tormenting himself with these thoughts actually helps to allow him to maintain control of his mind and fight off the Greater Mother's influence, but reflecting on his guilty past also causes him distress. Whenever Bhaal allows himself to let go and feel numb to trying and calm down, that's when the Greater Mother's influence starts creeping into the corners of his mind. He describes getting primal urges that are like a hot and fierce mental high that excites him to please the Greater Mother. But regret always followed because he feels that it was not his own will, but hers. It's clear that this condition is continuing to progress within him, as evidenced by the state of his bathroom. The bath faucet taped off, the mirror shattered with blood and glass remaining in the sink, and water with molted feathers all over the floor, and the fact he recently physically attacked both Acramon and Luthien. In the journal, Bhaal seethes at Lusberg for treating their current mental illness as a cute little secret. Bhaal states that he, back before he left, keeping Dr. Acramon mostly informed about both himself and Lusberg experiencing the desert's delirium, but not about everything. The party would be able to recall that Acramon had warned them to be wary of agitating Bhaal too much the other night in the clinic. The journal entry concludes that Bhaal is getting tired of fighting back, but perhaps he's actually tired of facing the music for a life of inflicting similar pain on others that he experienced. Oops, the narrator shouldn't inject his opinion, now should he? Bad Josh III, bad. Anyway, whether Bhaal becomes a supposed fully awakened one, or throws himself into the canal, time will tell. But like with Lusberg, he doesn't seem to have any knowledge on how or why the desert's delirium is spreading. Lastly, the titled CEO and mayor of this company town, the Baron, Butrin Blazinfoot's suite, the supposed cousin of Emperor Flintstrike himself, at least as he likes to brag. Butrin Blazinfoot's suite stood above the rest and reeked of fragile self-importance. But yet at the same time, the rest of the suite outside of his office area was more like an impersonal hotel. Which makes sense considering he is rarely ever in Zambieu, and you've heard he's only here now for the media documentary being recorded. Within his suite you all found Item 1, the incident report, written by Bhaal in regards to the North Pole. The reason for the fire at the North Pole not being put out turns out to not have been for any malicious intent. Gikarin's hacksaw fell down from the platform during her and Lux's confrontation. It knocked over a candle and wine bottle, which then came into contact with each other on the floor and exacerbated the fire started by Gribble. The report also includes witness statements that support several of the defense points made by Lux. However, in regards to Lux's testimony, Bhaal raised doubts about Lux's testimony that she snuck a dagger into Zambieu upon entry. He argues that her story doesn't add up because Lux's belongings had been detained by the prison she spent a couple years in before transferring here, and the prison had sent her belongings ahead to Zambieu before she ever arrived. Unless Officer Orion literally closed his eyes and allowed for her to take some of her belongings back, this isn't plausible. though Bhaal also can't account for the current status of Lux's belongings due to all of the new servants' detained items becoming shuffled, which still hasn't been sorted since the night of the break-in. And little does Bhaal know that Orion was actually Oryxian. Bhaal suggests that after reading Gikarin's diary and reconsidering the secretarial building events, that Lux and Gribble may have snuck out to do the break-in after the fact, despite Gregus's testimony that he walked them home that night. Bhaal believes that Lux confessed to sneaking a dagger into Zambu to get in trouble for the lesser offense, rather than get in trouble for breaking and entering. The given scenario at the secretarial building and her testimony lead to having 2 innocent officers fired. Bhaal points to Lux's criminal history and her oppositional behavior towards authority to support his argument, including her encounter with himself when he was trying to help Butrin Blazinfoot during his heat stroke spell, and now murdering Gikarin Sliverfell, albeit to stop her from also potentially murdering an employee. While the evidence is not conclusive, Bhaal's theory is more plausible than their previous analysis, and supported by Gikarin's diary entry and the other officer's report, with the exception that Lux and Gribble passed their room check twice. It seems Louisburg, with or without Butrin's approval, chose to ignore Bhaal's incident report. The party might recall that during the events of the crackdown meeting, they were given a perception check to notice Bhaal getting very pissed at Louisburg asking him to fire Officer Orion immediately. You can now deduce this is why he was so upset. Item 2. Also on Butrin's desk, Lux found and kept a letter that was addressed from Laura Coria Isgale in regards to Mimith Valbis. The letter starts off by introducing the Isgale family as a multi-corporate family of owners working in industries such as lumber, real estate, and vacation retreats. Laura Coria is the daughter of former Wolfsburg Chancellor, Rogar Isgale, a known populist politician that many grieved upon his death. His son, Tyrul Isgale, has become the new Chancellor of Wolfsburg, which is Laura Coria's brother. Lux reading the name Tyrul Isgale likely soured her mood lower than usual. She noted to herself, she needs to discuss this discovery with Gribble, and has opted to keep this letter a secret from Mimith and the rest of the party. However, after both Mimith and Lux rolling natural ones and having to re-roll, Mimith was able to insight and glean that Lux is distrustful of Mimith for her rather naive behavior these past few days, and it seems because of this, Lux is hiding something from her. The letter from Laura Coria names Mimith as her estranged granddaughter and completely paid Mimith's debt, on top of a donation to assure her safety, on the condition that the funds are not released by the bank until Mimith checks into their family-owned hotel, Pyra's Paradise, in Tikula. Within this letter, another letter was addressed to Mimith directly, and it's Laura Coria stating she had always hoped Mimith's mother would try to make amends with herself, but it sadly never happened. Laura Coria expresses grief that not only did she not get to say goodbye, but the tragedy of Mimith never even gotten the chance to know her own mother. Laura Coria speaks of making a huge mistake, and it's unclear what that is, but nevertheless she felt the only way she could honor her deceased daughter was to free her granddaughter, who didn't deserve the debt inflicted onto her by their family. She writes to Mimith they both should remain as strangers, and that Mimith should stay far away from their family. Mimith has 1 month all expenses paid in the Grand Suite in Pyra's Paradise Hotel in Tikula, but after that, she is on her own to rebuild herself and find independence. The suite is but a fragment of the luxury Mimith could have had her mother not run away from home all those years ago. Lastly, in Butrin's suite, aside from a vault Lux cracked open containing 1,500 gold pieces, of which most of that could go to Real Dilga's bail, but choosing between the right thing and money so happens to be Lux's weakness. A payment receipt was found from Mito Mice LabCorp in the Suwood Spire, addressed from 920 Oleander Street, Suite E. The name is spelled like mycelium, as Lux intuitively deduced, though it's unclear to the party what Mito might be related to. The logo of this corporation is of a mouse on top of a mushroom. The first line of the payment summary indicates reimbursing Butrin for purchased supplements for the month of Gusta, which is the 8th month in the world of Gikarin. 9,000 pounds of the supplement seem to be ordered on a monthly basis at 2 silver and 2 copper per pound. If this amount is ingested every month by the full Zambu population, that means each of the give or take 1,200 people here are consuming 4 ounces a day on average, likely in the food and/or water. Side note, while no one except the DM knows both in nor out of game what this all may or may not mean for the party, The DM has noted in her personal notes that only Tarth mentioned at the banquet he refuses to eat food made from people he doesn't know or trust. Being a druid, he provides himself with his own nourishment via good berries, and that's a valid lesson he learned in his backstory. He even offered each of you that night you first met to be safe and take his supplies instead, and you all rejected him in favor of pigging out at the buffet. Maybe the crazy Wobbit isn't so crazy after all. Oh, welp. The second line shows a payment to be given to Zombieu's on-site medical researcher as their monthly salary of 8,800 gold pieces, of which the party knows only of Acramon admitting he is a medical researcher on behalf of the government. Lux would likely know it's not uncommon for the government and corporations to make such arrangements together. Acramon also stated he was a specialist regarding the Fae, so studying supplementation seems off-topic, unless it's from ingredients derived in the Fae. Anyway, the last line of the invoice seems to be indicating the amount intended for Butrin to keep for himself in exchange for providing a large-scale pool of participants testing the supplements. 30,000 gold per month. Sure, a portion of that goes to expenses. Let's just firmly say Blazinfoot is like that of a multimillionaire today, but still not rich enough to live among those of the Platinum Palace's island. It would seem there is a divide among leadership of knowledge shared between one another, but the details of this deal are still unknown to you. Regardless of Butrin, Dr. Acramon Diamante's role here is seriously in question, but alas, he's gone now. My, how unfortunate. The party escaped from the tower undetected thanks to the noisiness of the storm. Gribble and Tawiti were left behind to bear witness to the leadership meeting, and oh boy did they learn a fucking lot.